I wonder how much we should place our, identity and worth in our culture.
Welcome to The Bridge.
I'm so sorry if my children say, oh yeah, my dad's from Nigeria, but I'm from Manchester.
A new show where we try and bridge the gap between generations on trending topics we see every day.
Cultural traditions are not always positive.
Yeah.
Can Gen Z, Gen X and millennials agree? Or will they be forever divided?
Are cultural traditions still necessary in 2022?
I would start by saying some cultural traditions. I think some are just important, just to remember our families, where they've come from. My great grandma, she always used to have the whole family over every Saturday, and she would host and cook food. And my grandma still tries to do that now, so she's kind of taken over from that. And I think that's a really nice tradition because it is a positive tradition that brings the family together. But I would say cultural traditions are not always positive.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people can excuse things that are toxic and quite literally sometimes goes against people's human rights just because it's a tradition, it's just used to,
Other traditions, putting that aside, which is a good thing, like Good Friday for us, it's having the fish, the culture thing. All of us would have the fried fish, the bun and the cheese, that kind of thing and I'd kind of like that because it just stays from generation to generation. So my mum was growing up, she had it, then it all got passed down to all, her children and their children's children, so we all carry out that same kind of cultural thing.
And the recipes as well, I feel I'm eager to learn from my grandma all of the recipes, because I don't know how far down it's gone, but I think it's important to keep that.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared of ruining any sort of tradition. I really want to be able to teach my kids how to cook certain soups or food. I don't want to, although I tell all my family I don't want to cook, there's still a part of me that I want to carry on traditions and stuff. I don't want it to die down. Even learn how to speak my language. I really want to fully be fluent so that I can my children don't start saying, yeah, I'm British, my mum was born here. Huh?
That was actually
that's my worst nightmare. Imagine my child is born here, my mum was born here, so I'm no, we're Nigerian. I don't want anyone to ever feel they don't know where they're really from. So I don't want to ever end any sort of traditions that will really identify them, what community they're part of. So.
Yeah, because I was going to say without cultural traditions, you kind of lose individual culture and then also collective culture. Some cultural traditions, they're just kind of I'm so sorry, I'm having a traditional wedding. There's no choice. I'm having a traditional wedding. I'm Nigerian, But I just think if you don't have these traditions because we're in 2022, I'm so sorry if my children say, oh yeah, my dad's from Nigeria, but I'm from Manchester.
Isn't it a question of, when we talk about cultural identity, how we also evolve as well? Because I'm a proud Yoruba man. That being said, there's certain traditions within the Yoruba culture which I'm not going down that. I'm not doing that. It was relevant for the time. Mindsets have changed as well, and our outlook as well. So there's certain things which I could say yes, I don't mind. I can speak Yoruba, I can read Yoruba, and I will share it with my nephew and nieces. But at the same time, being the firstborn son, there's a tradition, there's the belief that, being the firstborn son, you've got to have a son, and you've got to have children as well. I'm not subscribing to that. Personally, I don't want to have kids. Now, I've had people say to me, yeah, but that's your duty. I said, to whom?
And from whom?
I'm doing it. So, yes, it's important that we do have the cultural traditions, but I think sometimes, it can be a crutch in the wrong hands. But yeah.
And I think it keeps society stagnant in some way. I remember one time we had an uncle visit us from Nigeria, and I remember eating, and I was finishing my dish off, and he calls my sister from upstairs, and he's like, oh, your brother's about to finish eating, you won't carry his plate. And I I was so shocked. I looked at my mum looked at me, I looked at my dad, and we were all like, I ate. Yeah. I have the 2 walking legs. Yeah. I can go to the kitchen with my plate. Yeah. But it's culture, I guess, that the firstborn son should. And I was just like, this how y'all really move? Because to me, you then grow up to be a man that just gets babied by his wife and can't do anything for himself because you've become used to, my sister and my mum patting it for me. So I think like so many cultures just stop the evolution of us as people.
And I think also one of the problems with cultural tradition is that it's seeped in patriarchy.
Absolutely.
And there are people back home who are still stuck within that mindset. And what is tradition? What is culture? It changes. But some people are so seeped with, that's how we do it back home. If you go back home, some of those people don't even do that anymore. As a matter of fact, those back home are more worldly than those who are over here.
Definitely. Do you think that that's like a cultural thing though, or patriarchy, like in general? Because I think that those gender roles, they kind of exist everywhere. Like
Probably. Probably.
I wonder how much we should place our, I guess, identity and worth in our culture, because we are inevitably evolving, mixing. Like we've all got fears of our children not being able to speak our language or eat, cook and all of that. And it's very likely that they might not be able to make the soup. And if my identity is so grounded
One thing about mine, you know how to make a riddle.
What happens though when your child
marries an Asian and
the Asian also learn? That's the thing. Like I expect my son to then know how to make Singapore fried rice, and his wife to want to learn how to make a good
like
soup.
I'm saying, when we look at, like, let's look at America as an example. The evolution that culture has taken in America, we can study it, and that's where we're headed if we're honest with ourselves, right? So maybe one generation below, maybe two, the dual heritage families will learn to cook both sides, but eventually we'll get to a point that we cannot learn to cook everything.
I guess it depends, because if you have an interest and you show an interest to the person who might be the recipient, they can then pass it on because there's an interest to it, there's an enthusiasm, a genuine enthusiasm to learn it. Isn't there the chance that the child can then evolve that tradition and culture? Yeah. And in what way do you retain the originality?
And that's kind of what
because it changes.
No, that's the thing. Like for me, it's quite simple. There's some originality will remain in terms of archive, in terms of history. Like these are the things you'll have to read or watch documentaries about, because people, like even us now, the Nigerian we're calling ourselves, isn't the Nigeria of 30, 40, 50 years ago. Like we have mixed, our parents have mixed. So it's like we are almost, I don't want to say watered down culture, God forgive me. But it's kind of like we're learning and evolving away, and the original material becomes history.
And I think I guess that's my, not issue, but like something that I'm aware of is that when culture evolves in Black British culture, it's seen as washed out. But it's like, we are here now, and a big part of our culture, and the reason that we're not so connected to the culture back home is because we are here. Yeah. So our culture is evolving. At what point are we going to, I guess, comfortably embrace a new Black British culture as opposed to constantly trying to grasp the Nigeria back home and actually be grasping onto a version that doesn't exist in Nigeria?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not to grasp onto become, but it's just to know that, oh, this is where it started. So history, this is where I came from, yada yada. But then, like, the culture we are now is our culture. Like, my culture is very much Black, Nigerian, European, because I grew up all around Europe. So it's just like these things evolve, and it's up to you to say, this is my culture. I can only pass down what I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But do you think that, the culture has changed in Nigeria, with you guys are still holding on to the traditions? Do you reckon they've really evolved in Nigeria and they don't have all of the traditional cultures that they did have before years ago?
I think Nigeria is evolving slowly, but definitely evolving. And you've got media, entertainment, everything is being an influence on the country as a whole. So Nigeria is changing, but we're changing more because we're not in Nigeria as well. So we're not just Nigerians, we're mixing with British people, Indian people, Sri Lankan people. So it becomes a thing where we're fusion and they're changing as well. So that's why there's like, you know, the whole war between, oh, I'm in Nigeria, you can't be as Nigerian as I am because you're in London, and that whole like diasporan war. But it's just to accept that, oh, my culture is a fusion culture of modernity. They're being modern over there too. Whatever we have that's similar, we bond over. Whatever it's different, you teach me, I teach you, and that's it.
I think we need to be like, I'm gonna try, if God willing, I have kids, to be intentional about instilling where I'm from in them, but also making them comfortable with embracing their Black Britishness. Because as a Black Brit, a big part of my culture is now Caribbean. Like a lot of the language that I use, the way that I move, the way that I speak, and the food that I eat, whatever else, we've become a melting pot of cultures.
But isn't there the argument that it can be said that there's a form of appropriation? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I feel like it's different though, because like obviously the history, like everyone in the Caribbean originated from like different countries in Africa. I don't know if
I mean, my family, like back, is all not Ghanaians. Yeah, like from my grandma's grandma, all from there were all Ghanaians.
I was gonna say, I think appropriation comes in like, oh, you're doing it because like, oh, it's cool, or like, oh, I want to look. I think if you grew up in London, like obviously I lived in Manchester in the UK, so like it's a little wide over there. But like if you grew up in like London, for example, there's no way you did not have some sort of exposure to Caribbean culture. Like it's literally impossible. So like you might be a Nigerian kid, but 3 Jamaican friends, 1 friend from maybe Trinidad, and like, you know, you go over their house and it's rice and peas and curry goat. Like these are things you get used to and become part of like your childhood and form your identity. So
we're all coming together. I mean, like my sister, she will, because of her kids, and most of their friends are from Nigeria or Ghanaian, and then she will be always making jollof rice. So it's become like all the cultures are like mixing together.
Exactly,
so,
that's why I don't think it's
nice.
appropriation, because it's like
I
you
think
do what you know.
appropriation is different as well, because like it's different when it's like, it's kind of like when like Black culture becomes like trending, or it's kind of like becomes like a white trend. It's like when Kim Kardashian gets braids and then she starts calling it a different thing. It's like she changed the name and it's as though they like invented it. I think the difference is that like she gets praised for the same thing that Black people are told that they're unprofessional for having that, or you know, that they're racially abused for having that. I feel like that's the difference.
Yeah, it's appreciation. Like, oh, I like this meal. I'm gonna learn how to cook it, and now I like it.
And it's also that we shared in it. Like, I didn't learn it from watching YouTube videos. I lived among the culture, and it became a part of mine. Yeah.